Welcome to today's show, Success and Intentional Lifestyle. I'm your host, Jeff Heiser, a motivator, a leader, and a communicator. Welcome and thank you for joining me here today on Success and Intentional Lifestyle. I'm your host, Jeff Heiser, and I'm glad to be here and very excited about today's show. To find out who I'm having as upcoming guests, which I've got a really good list that's starting to build now of guests, upcoming guests, please go out and visit my website at jeffheiserradio.com. That's www.jeffheiserradio.com. Or you can visit my official Facebook page at facebook.com/Jeff Heiser Radio. Also, when you visit my Facebook page, please give me a like. It'll mean a lot to me. You know, if you'd like to join in on today's conversation, you can call in at 321-631-1300. I'll try to get you on the show. Can't guarantee it, but if you have a question, please call in. As the title of the show goes, Success and Intentional Lifestyle. And you know, the only way that you can be successful is by being intentional. Again, thank you for joining me here today. And I hope you had a great week and that you are ready for a great show. You know, I've got to share this with you. Last night, I went to my 40th high school class reunion, and I just want to give a shout out to my old classmates and my teammates at Brandon High School. And I don't know how my life would have been if I hadn't met these people. You know, back in 1969, my parents decided to move from Long Island, New York, from Central Islip, where I had police officers on my school bus back then to protect the bus drivers from being beat up by the gangs. And that one intentional step that my parents took changed my life, my brother's life, and my sister's lives forever. And I would have never met these people that I met from Brandon High School. And it was a good time, and I just wanted to give a shout out to them. You know, it's said that being able to learn from your own personal experience is a key to your success. In the last few weeks, I've discussed how important it is not to fear failing and how critical it is for your success to learn from those failures and from your experiences. Being able to turn a failure into a positive learning experience can be the difference between success and failure. It could be the difference between you really making it and you really failing. Regardless, you know, achieving success can all be boiled down to how much you help others. When you find a way to serve others, it will lead to great wealth. It will lead to great power. It will lead to great influence. And it will lead to great success. It's just like what President John F. Kennedy said. He said, you know, don't ask what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Last week I was talking to a young man, and I said this to him, and he said, you're crazy. It's no way. He says, look at LeBron James. I said, yes, look at LeBron James. People pay for his performance. He is serving people through his ability to play basketball. People want to see him play basketball. He is serving people. Today, my special guest lives a very intentional life of giving more than he receives, and I am really happy to have him on the show today. My guest today is Tim Davis. To some, he's known as the marketing evangelist. To others, he's known as the daily difference guy. To others, and to me, he's known as my friend with the crazy paint-splattered jacket and golf pants. All joking aside, Tim Davis serves as the national sales coach for Movement Mortgage. He's a speaker. He's an author. He leads seminars for individuals who want to achieve more in life. And, you know, what's important to know about Tim is that before reaching business success, Tim began his life as an at-risk kid from the projects. He understands what it's like to be broke. He understands what it's like to have a dream. He understands what it's like to get stuck along your journey and what you have to do. The lessons Tim has learned along his way from failing forward, he now teaches and shares with others who are desperately seeking their big break. In addition to coaching, Tim has also authored several books, including Personal Branding Mastery, The Daily Differences, and a Dove Award-winning children's book called Squiggly's Race to the Ark. When he's not pursuing his business goals, Tim spends time with his wife working out. And that in itself is a whole nother show. He also likes playing golf, and he likes celebrating relationships with friends. And I have to tell you, it was a couple of months ago. It was a Thursday night. The phone rings. It's Tim. Tim says, "What are you doing Sunday?" I said, "Well, I don't know. What do you got planned?" He says, "I'm going to be in Florida. You want to have dinner? Let's meet up." So we meet up. I go out there to this beautiful, beautiful resort up in Palm Coast, and we're sitting there on the patio overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, eating dinner, and he says, "So what's up with Jeff Heiser?" And he kind of took me off guard. But by the end of the evening, my life changed from talking with Tim. Tim's clients say that the results they have achieved from his advice include gaining clarity on their vision, increasing their sales, and obtaining better relationships. And honestly, the best way to describe how Tim will help you is this. He paints a vivid picture of what's possible for you in your life. And that's what Tim did for me that night over dinner. I don't know if he realized it at that time, but he really painted a picture that I could see and understand. He helped me bring clarity to what I wanted to achieve. Tim, all I can say is thank you for joining me here on today's show.
Oh, man, listen, that was unbelievable. I was like, listen to that. I was like, ooh, I want to hear this guy. Well, listen to what he's got to say. That's fantastic. Thanks for having me on, Jeff. I'm really excited about your show and what you're doing, and I think it's going to lead to some really great opportunities for you, buddy.
Thanks, Tim. And really, thank you so much for being here. And, we are really I wish the show was like 2 hours. And so it's not. And I only have so much time. So I'm going to ask you some really important questions, if that's okay. I want to discuss some things. And
okay, sure. Yeah, sounds great.
In your bio, you state that you started life as an at-risk kid, and that you understand what it's like to be broke and all these different things stuck on your journey. Can you talk about what your journey has been like, and what was your turning point? What made you become so intentional and become the Tim Davis that I know? I mean, the paint splattered guy with the fancy socks and the cool shoes,
It's a journey, but if you start back in the projects, so I came along late in life to my parents. I think don't think I was planned or expected per se, but that's okay. Here I am, and so my dad he passed away. I was about 3 years old, so I don't really have a recollection or really really strong or any kind of memories of him. But my mom. She only had a 6th grade education, so she did the best she could with what she knew. And at the time, what she knew was to scoop me up, put me on a bus, leave Dallas, Texas, and move back to the western Kentucky area, a little small town called Mayfield. And when she got there, her best idea, right? We always need to come up with our best idea. Her best idea, because of her where she was in life, was she was going to get on the welfare system, and we moved into the housing projects there. And when you're a small kid, you don't know any different. I mean,
no, you don't have any idea.
Trying to hang out and have a good time, and whatever. So you don't really know. But as you get older, each year as you get older, you start to realize, wow, you know what? We only have food for a certain number of days, and we really have to manage what's in the pantry, and it starts to get really thin as the months wear on, and you start to gain a perspective that other people don't live that way. It's just an awareness that comes around.
About how old were you when that was going on?
Well, let's see. I don't know if I can pinpoint the exact awareness date, but I would say it's probably starting in middle school.
Right.
That's when you start to become a little bit more aware.
You start seeing the other kids and...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in fourth grade or fifth grade, it's not as prevalent to you because everybody is pretty much the same, at least in your mind. But as you start to get into that middle school, that puberty age, I guess, you start to realize, wait a minute, other people don't live like we do. They don't struggle like we do. And so I just begin to really start to ask questions, at least to myself.
Right.
Like, why are they not struggling? Why are we struggling? And you don't have the answers, and you really don't have anybody to talk to, because I even talked to friends that I went to high school with, and they're like, we had no idea. And I'm like, well, of course not. You think that I'm just going to come and go, whoa, hey, guys, guess what? I haven't had any food for the last 3 days. I'm really hungry because we're broke.
My lights are off. Can I come watch your TV?
Yeah, I'm not going to come and announce that at school, right? So I did everything I could to suppress and hide that and keep that part of our life away from my friends, because I was really afraid that they would judge me and not be my friend anymore. And so that fear that I had, which was probably a ridiculous fear, but nonetheless it was real at the time.
Yeah, but look how many kids have that.
To hide it.
So many kids have that now. I mean, they do, and you wouldn't know it unless you saw, you knew their situation, right? I mean, think about it. Do you think any of your friends knew? They didn't.
No, I mean, I went back to, I'll date myself, but I went back to a 25-year high school reunion recently within the last couple of years, and several of them were talking to me, and they were just like, we had no idea that you guys didn't have any money, and we didn't know that you would go home and you would, not be any food to eat, and that, there was, a lot of drama at the house. My mom, she got hooked on prescription medications, and that led to anxiety and depression, and so there was always chaos at the house.
Right.
Be it chaos with her being detached from reality, or chaos in the sense that I had two older sisters, and they had had a really, really tough upbringing and a tough childhood, and that had bled into their adult life, and so they were struggling with, alcohol abuse and, bad relationships, and, the cops were being called, and all these things were it was just this immense amount of drama that I just did whatever I could to escape it. And so often I would just find myself by myself, down at the Mayfield Messenger, which was a newspaper near where we lived, and I had painted, probably illegally, but I had painted a strike zone on the wall down there, and I would just go down there and throw tennis balls into the strike zone, just really as a method of escaping the home reality.
Right. What was your turning point? What triggered you to be intentional about changing that reality?
Well, along the way, it's easier to reflect back and go, when was that, than it was to maybe go through that at the time. But there were a couple of stories that I'll share with you that really made a lasting impact. One was when I was 15 years old, we would shop at this grocery store, Smith's Grocery, and it was a good, no kidding, it was probably 15 or 20 blocks at least from my house. I don't know how many miles that translates into, but it was a pretty good distance. Nonetheless, I applied for a job there, and of course I didn't have a car. And we did have a car in the household, but it was completely unreliable. So it might work and it might not work. And when it didn't work, there was really no funds to fix it. So you just set outside. So I took a job there, and I really had this idea in my mind that I wanted to be a bagger, because to me the baggers were, had a little more prestige at the grocery store. They wore white button-down shirts, and they bagged the groceries and
talked to everybody. Everybody knew them. Everybody knew them. Yep.
Yeah, everybody knew them. But John Smith, the owner, said, I'm going to start you in the back. And this was when you could return your Coke bottles for a nickel.
I remember those days.
You remember those days?
Yes,
right?
I do.
So you could return them for a nickel. And so what would happen is that you had the Pepsi products and the Coke products, and one of my main responsibilities was to sort the bottles in the wooden crates according to the vendor. Was it a Coke product? Was it a Pepsi product? It was incredibly important to John to have them in the right order. And he said something to me, I remember when I got hired. He was really a stern man. And he said, you better be more valuable to me than we are to you, because I'll let you go at any time.
Wow.
And that was really kind of frightening, because I needed that $2.15 an hour job, not because I was trying to, buy a car or anything like that. I was just trying to get food on our table for the second half of the month, and I was trying to get a pair of tennis shoes that would actually fit my feet, because, when you can't go buy them on a regular basis, they shrink on you. So I was doing it for life, right? I mean,
right.
To live.
You had to survive.
Survival.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so that I was extremely grateful for that. And I look back at that lesson, and I tell people today that that's a true lesson of life, that you need to be more valuable to others than they are to you. And you need to find ways to bring immense value in your career and in your life. And if you do that, opportunities will come your way. But let me share another story, and very few people know this story. My wife knows this story. She calls it the chicken story.
Here's the scoop. Here's the scoop.
But so anyway, so I'm a senior in high school, and I started dating a young lady who had I don't even know why they had moved to this small town, because there wasn't much there, but nonetheless, her and her mom had moved to this small town. Her dad was still living in Ohio, and again, I don't recall why they were there, but they were there, and I started dating her. And she invited me and one of my closest friends to go on spring break to Florida. We have to understand, I had never to this point been any further outside the city of Mayfield, Kentucky than Paducah, Kentucky, and I'd only been there a couple of times. So my world, as I knew it, was this rural town with these challenges. And I was really excited to go. So we went down to Florida, and they had a condominium, and so it was myself, my good friend, it was the young lady I was dating, and I think, if I remember right, her brother had some friends there, so there was a lot of kids in this condo, plus the parents. And so it's a new world for me. I'm like, the beach and sand, and this is amazing, and there is like a life outside of Mayfield, Kentucky, and anyway, so the week went on, and what her mom had done was she had gone to the grocery store, and she had, wanted to cook at home or at the condo, which was a great idea for me because I didn't have any money. And so she would make this food. Well, the day before we were leaving, she had made chicken. And John, I remember distinctly, John, myself, and Amy were sitting there, and we were eating. And I guess by the end of a week with a condo full of kids, your nerves grow very thin as a parent.
They're very fragile.
And so you could tell she was tense. And so we were eating, and she really got on this rant about finishing all the food. She goes, there is a piece of chicken left, and I'm not throwing away food. We are not a wasteful family. And she really got pretty excited about the thought of not having any, eating and cleaning up all the food. And so nobody really wanted to take the last piece of chicken, but man, she got intense and kind of angry that we needed to do that. So I said, okay, and I'll eat the chicken. So I ate the chicken. Well, a few hours later, Amy's dad came back to the condo, and I don't know where he had been and all this kind of stuff, and he was livid that there was no food. I mean, this guy was super angry. And you got to understand, I grew up in a household that didn't have a father figure. So
right.
To see a grown man get angry like that,
especially over food,
the daylights out of me.
Yeah.
And, they all pinned it on me for eating the last piece of chicken. Well, which I had done. And so he called me into the room, and he's got this stern look on his face, and he's angry, and he starts laying into me, and he's like, let me tell you something. You've mooched off us all week. You're just a poor kid from the projects. I don't have any use for you, and my daughter's not going to date somebody like you. You're going nowhere in life. I don't even understand how you were even invited to be with us. I mean, he laid into me like there was no tomorrow. And he said, you know what? In fact, you need to get your stuff and get out.
Wow. You're down in Florida, and he told you to get out.
He told me to get out. Yeah.
Wow.
And so, and they were a wealthy family, it's at least to me. But, hey, dude, listen, anybody that had food on the table is wealthy compared to me.
Right. We've got about 3 minutes before break.
Okay. So I got to tell you, I'll say this real quick. I was 100% devastated that an adult, that I respected, just basically told me that I would amount to nothing in life.
Right.
And something kicked in inside of me as I was sitting on the beach, wondering how in the world I was going to get back home. And subsequently, I ended up riding back with the football team, and that's a story unto itself. But something kicked in on the beach with me that said, I'd be dang if I'm going to prove him right. I'm going to do everything in my power to prove that man wrong. And that was a big turning point for me. Yeah,
that is a turning point. And, so many people experience that kind of a turning point. Not your story, but, there's something that happens in their life that gets their attention so readily. It's there right in front of your face, and it's like, okay, what do I do now? And it gets your attention, and it changes your life. It makes you make decisions or choices that you might not have made. So
yeah, and Angie always says to this day, Tim will not eat the last piece of anything on the table, and she's right. I won't touch it. You couldn't put a gun to my head and make me take the last piece of food today.
I'm going to test you on that sometime.
Yeah, you can put me. I promise you, it will not happen.
So we have about 2 minutes left. And before we break, how can people get in touch with you? Because I've already seen one text so far. They're asking, how do we get in touch with this guy?
Probably the best way is just my email. It's timdavisonline@me.com. So it's timdavisonline@me.com.
Do you have a website, or do you have a place where they can find your books?
I've got a couple of them, but probably if they go to themarketingevangelist.com, they're going to see a lot of videos and success strategies or whatever you want to call it. That's probably the one that I keep up the most.
Right. So we're getting ready to go into the break right now. When we come back, we're going to talk about. I want to talk to you about your daily difference. The Daily Difference, which is by far my most favorite thing on Facebook. And if people haven't seen this, they really need to go look for it because it's very cool. And I also want to talk to you about your books.
Okay, great. Sounds good.
And I think we're ready for the break. We'll be right back right after these short announcements and the news. And I hope you stay with us. We'll talk with you right on the other side of the break. Thank you. We're back. The show is Success and Intentional Lifestyle, and I'm your host, Jeff Heiser. Thank you for listening in and joining us on the second half. My guest today is Tim Davis, the National Sales Coach for Movement Mortgage out of Nashville, Tennessee. Earlier, we talked a little bit about Tim's story along his journey, and on this half, we're going to talk a little bit more about what Tim does. Tim, at Movement Mortgage, what does a National Sales Coach do?
Oh, yeah. That's a good question, Jeff. So I think I'm trying to figure that out. Now, in all seriousness, I spent 15 years of my life in the mortgage industry on the side of owning and operating a mortgage brokerage company. I was what you would call the head cook and the bottle washer many times. So I understand, going out there and originating loans and best practices and fundamentals and things that it requires to be successful in that industry. And so I was I was offered the opportunity to come on board as a national sales coach for Movement Mortgage, which you should check out their website, movement.com. Phenomenal organization, one of the fastest growing mortgage companies in the United States today. Just an incredible culture with strong leadership and incredible values, and a give back type of what they give to in terms of charities and ministries and community work is just extraordinary, and they really do make a difference in the lives of people. So it was a really no-brainer when I was offered the opportunity. But basically, what I do, I work with about 60 of our loan originators. We have, I think, close to 1,000 nationwide, and so 60 of them in our program we call Champions Edge. And so I meet with those originators twice a month by telephone, and we talk about best practices, and we talk about client service, and we talk about how to improve as an individual, as a leader, and how to really go out there and win more market share for themselves and serve more people. And so we just iron out really good plans, and then we set up some goals, and we set up some accountability to help them meet and exceed those goals. So that's one of the parts of my job. Another part is I do leadership calls where we talk about leadership lessons that people can get on board with and listen to those calls. I also interview people in our organization on their best practices, and then I share those interviews with the rest of the group so they can listen and learn. And lastly, I travel around doing personal branding mastery seminars for real estate agents in the communities that we have offices. So it's a great way to share some education with the real estate agents, as well as some lunch and get to meet them and start to build relationships.
Now, I think I heard a rumor that you might have a new book coming out. Can you talk about that?
Say that last part one more time, Jeff.
I heard a rumor that you may have a book coming out.
Well, yeah, I do. I have a book out there called Personal Branding Mastery, and I started to write that in 2009, and it was really at the time just sort of a playbook of the strategies and techniques I used to build my personal book of business to close to 200 loan closings per year that was 100% referral based. Every person we did a transaction for was referred to our company. And so I started to write down the strategies in 2009, and I published a version of that. But since then, I've expanded, what's possible for people to do today. So I'm redoing that book right now, and I'm trying to find the margin to get that book finished so I can get that out there.
So let me ask you this. You said something really important. It was all referral based. So you did no cold calling. This was all people that called you?
Well, in the beginning, I did do cold calling, right? In the beginning, I had to get out there and, nobody taught me. There wasn't, a playbook. And so I had to drive, and I knew I wanted to succeed, so I started attending seminars and listening to what best practices were. But in the beginning, I was knocking on doors, and I just didn't find it very fun or fruitful.
It never is.
Yeah, and so I thought there's got to be a different and a better way. So I really immersed myself in the study of human psychology and marketing, and started to learn about direct response marketing and how I could put an offer out into the marketplace and people would respond to that offer, and then I could develop a relationship with that person from there. I started to learn about how to be better scripted at networking events, and really how to position myself in the marketplace as someone who would have the right answers for the consumer or for the real estate agent to help them get from point A to point B. So it's a combination of a lot of things that we talk about in the book, Personal Branding Mastery, and we also talk about that at our branding seminars. But 100% referral based. I got away from cold calling because
nobody likes
a better word, that sucked.
Yeah, nobody likes cold calling. So what is it that gets Tim Davis up in the morning? What is that drive that you've got that just says, this is going to be a great day?
Well, look, I don't want to be broke.
I hear you.
I don't want to go to the refrigerator and say, oh, wow, we have some mayonnaise and the heel of a piece of bread, and that's going to be our dinner. That's a big driving force for me, and that comes from childhood. Another big driving force is, that gentleman who kicked me out of the room in Florida. I'm not going to let somebody tell me I can't.
Right.
And so I'm going to do everything to prove them wrong. And then, I think you just have to get up in the morning and make a decision about your attitude. I hear the statement, I got up on the wrong side of the bed. Well, go back to bed and get up on the right side of the bed.
Yeah.
Control your emotions. Control your attitude. Be grateful about something and have something that you're going after in life. Be intentional.
I remember you saying that to me. I remember sitting there eating dinner, and you said, Jeff, just be intentional about what you want to do. And that's what I did, and it made all the difference, actually.
Yeah, so, when I was originating loans, my single thought for the day was go find and serve a customer, go write a loan that day. As the, sales coach for Movement Mortgage, my single thought is, what can I share today to help them write more loans and serve more people? Right. And so, I had that single thought, and I think when you put yourself in a position that it's not about you, it's about others, then all of a sudden you're forcing yourself to get positive. That's
so true. That is so true, and that was my point in the beginning of the show in the first half was you have to serve others, and by serving others, it lifts you up. And a lot of people that I speak with, they just don't understand that piece of it. It's like, how can I serve others and make money? It happens. It happens. So
it really does.
Yeah, I know. It really does. And I know a lot of people that will tell you the same thing. Let's talk about thedailydifference.com. That, like I said at the break, was it remains one of my most favorite pieces on Facebook. When I go out there, I'm looking for the Daily Difference. How did you come up with that?
So what happened was, most people would, call it the mortgage crisis, call it whatever you want when the economy just really turned on us, like it seemed to be overnight. And, people were losing their jobs. Mortgage companies were closing their doors just with absolutely no notice. That was the industry that I was in. The part of the Speakers Bureau that I was on, that pretty much dried up overnight. Our mortgage company that we were operating at the time, we had 15 employees, and we were uncertain about, were we going to have funding for our customers from a day-to-day basis. And it was just crazy going. I was also coaching people at the time, and they were calling me and they were wanting clarity and they were wanting certainty in their life, and I couldn't provide them any. And so I think from all of these different angles, I was feeling an enormous amount of stress. I was feeling like I was responsible to keep everybody's job and paycheck going. I felt like I was responsible to keep the coaching clients I had happy and motivated and moving forward in life. And it got to the point where it was too much to bear. I really think there was probably plenty of days that I think I either did break, or thinking I was going to break. And my head was not a good place to be. And it was tough. And through that process, I really struggled, with my identity. We ended up selling our mortgage company, and that was, my identity for so long, and I struggled with the loss of that. And I struggled with my place in life. I struggled with what am I here for? What's my purpose? I just struggled with so many things during that period of time. And through that, I didn't really know what to do. And here I was the guy giving advice, all of a sudden finding myself going, I need somebody to talk to. And I think pride had set in, and I was unwilling to ask and raise my hand for help. I was in lots of leadership positions in the community and at our church, and so I was unwilling to raise my hand and go, I'm hurting and I need some help. And so I tried to fight through that myself. And
doesn't work, does it?
What's that?
It doesn't work, does it?
It doesn't.
You have to ask for help.
And so through that, I leaned on some relationships. I leaned on God. I leaned on, my past knowledge. I leaned on all those kind of things. I was, seeking the answers out. But through that, I started journaling notes every day, famous quotes. Some were things that just popped in my mind, and I created them, I guess you could say. Others were ones I read. And so I just started sharing them, and I called it The Daily Difference. And in the beginning, Jeff, it wasn't for anybody else. I mean, I just looked at Facebook as my journal, and I knew I had to get a positive start in the day. I knew that was imperative. And so what I would do is get up and force myself, no matter how bad I was feeling, to read something positive and post it on Facebook. And that's how it began. It began as my personal therapy.
Wow.
It wasn't for anybody else.
I can tell you that all you have to do is look at the amount of times some of your posts are shared. It's making a difference with a lot of people. A lot of people are looking at this and reading it, and it's so much of it is just so common sense. I had the one from today, and I don't know what I did with it. I had it on a piece of paper, but it was like, holy smokes, that's what we're going to be talking about pretty much. And it's like, it just makes all the difference for me. And I want to say thank you for the Daily Difference. And is it thedailydifference.com so people could go out there and see this, or how does it work?
Yeah, so we have a website, and it's one of my other projects. I have a tendency to get a lot of projects going on. Sorry about that, Jeff. I'm calling you from my home office, so I don't expect my phone to ring.
Okay. That's all right.
I apologize. That's never any fun. Well, it's still going on. Sorry, buddy.
That's okay. When you do live shows, a lot of different things happen. So.
Hey, exactly. It's life. But so what happened was, I think we were talking about the Daily Difference. So
yes.
We have a website we built, thedailydifference.com. People could go and right now sign up for, a leadership newsletter that we'll publish through there, just an email. And the book is published, so you can go to Amazon.com. It actually made the bestseller list, which was pretty awesome. But so we have a collection of daily differences. It's I call it the 30-day guide, and that's sort of an action plan to get out of a rut and back into success. So they can purchase the Daily Difference book, or they can just go to thedailydifference.com and sign up for a free, motivation emails.
Fantastic. Talking about people and, getting unstuck and where they're at in life, a lot of people are stuck in either what I call the challenge zone or their comfort zone or their coasting zone. And I'm sure when you go out and you are talking with the mortgage brokers and the real estate agents that you can identify these people. Where do you think most of the people that are in the world right now, in business, where do you think they're fitting right now?
Well, I think that a lot of times people have sort of hopes and dreams, and they may either not know how to connect the dots, they may be afraid to get started, they may be living in comfort, and they don't want to make the risk of getting outside the boat and attempting to walk on water. There's a lot of different reasons, Jeff. Everybody's a little bit, everybody's unique. So, one person may be fear, one person may be, they don't believe they have the resources. Another person may not have really drilled down on what it is that they want. They may be saying, it would be nice if, versus saying, I really want this. And so I think everybody's got to start and figure out what it is that you really want and understand there's a price to pay to get there.
There is a price. There's always a cost.
You have to ask yourself, are you willing to pay the price? Because it's always more than you believe it is when you get started.
That's the truth. So if somebody asked you, Tim, what do I need to do to get out of this comfort zone? What do I do to get to the next step? What would you say to them?
Well, the very first step is they have to write out the vision of what they want to have happen in their life. There's part of the Bible that says, write the vision down plain on tablets so everybody can see it, can run the race. And I will tell you, if your vision's not clear, you will stumble. And so you have to start with a clear vision of what it is that you want to do. You may not know all the steps to get there. So when I was a kid growing up, I would see other parents, and they would be dressed in nice clothes, and they would carry these briefcases, and I didn't really know what they did. And so in my naivety, whatever you pronounce that word, I translated that to, if you wear nice clothes, you end up with opportunities and you get money so you have food on the table. That was it. And you have to be in business to do that. That was as far as my mind could stretch at that point. So I got a vision of the person I wanted to become. I didn't have the steps to get there at the time, but I got this vision of the person I wanted to become, and that's where everybody has to start. A healthy self-image, that's what Zig Ziglar said. Dr. Maxwell Maltz says that the vision we see of ourselves in our mind translates to the person that we become. So if you see yourself as a struggling person, then you will be a struggling person.
Right, you'll be a struggling person.
If you see yourself as successful, you will become successful. So you have to start with it. How do you see yourself in your mind? And I need people to be honest with me about that from their perspective, because I can already tell by looking at them how they see themselves.
Right. And a lot of people can see that, and they just don't realize it. So with what you just said, what would be one of the most important life lessons that you've learned that you want to share with people about this that would reinforce that? I know you have lots of them, but what would be your most important thing that you would tell somebody that's looking to take the next step?
You have to develop a healthy self-image of the person you want to become.
Gotcha.
Without that, the steps and the systems and the checklist of the world, it's all out there. You want to learn something, go to YouTube. Chances are there's a video about it. But if you don't have a healthy self-image of seeing yourself doing that, you can watch stuff like that, and if you're letting this movie play in your mind, that's for them, not for you.
Right. So, other than the girlfriend's father, who's made the most impact on your life coming to where you're at now? And I mean, you're a pretty successful guy. I'm sure there's been people that have really made some impact on your life that has helped you get along the way. Not that they've given you anything, but just have inspired you or encouraged you. And
there was a guidance counselor in school, Melinda Craig. She said, you can go to college, you can get some possible grant money, you could apply for a student loan. There's ways that it could happen. She basically challenged me to stop saying that's impossible and start finding out how it could be possible.
Right.
So she didn't do the work for me per se, but she laid out some dots and allowed me to go and connect those. Huge, huge change. Your friends, the people you surround yourself with, I think you have to be conscious about and really observe situations like, John Champion, Jeff Carlisle, two of my great friends growing up. They came from great families with, high morals and integrity. And it wasn't that we didn't get into trouble, because I could tell you stories that would blow you away. But at the end of the day, there was a check and balance in both of their lives that they wouldn't go past the gray area, right? They might get up to it, but they're not going to go past it. So I think really making sure you take a look at your friends, right? If your friends are out there and they're, into, poor activity, poor language, maybe drugs, all this other stuff, you're going to get sucked into that. You can't pull them out of it, right?
Right. I mean, if your friends are losers, it's a good chance you might become a loser.
It's 100% chance.
Yeah.
And so it's a better forecast than the weatherman. But the truth is that, you've got to really be selective of your friends. And you've got to put yourself in learning situations, but not just that so that you learn something. I know a lot of smart people that they're not moving anywhere in life. you have to learn something, and you have to take action on that immediately.
Right.
And when I say immediately, I mean immediately. Like if you catalog it and say, I'll get to it next week, screw it. You didn't even learn it. It didn't matter.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
You've got to take action on it right now.
Right. Listen, we have 2 minutes left. I want to give you an opportunity to talk about how people can get in touch with you if they want, and what resources that you have available.
Yeah. You can go to the marketingevangelist.com blog. I'll put videos up there. I'm kind of an on-the-spot guy, so an idea comes to my mind, boom, I'll put it out there. As you know, I've got my Facebook page, and that's where I communicate a ton from that. So if you go to facebook.com/Tim W. Davis, you'll see behind the scenes. You'll see the good moments and the bad moments, and the golf pants and the days the Cowboys lose. You'll see it all on there. But,
it's almost like a reality show.
It is a reality show. Those are two great places to sort of connect and reach out for sure. And
for our listeners, your book is available on Amazon, right?
The book is available on Amazon. It's called The Daily Difference. And they can go out there. It's $9.99.
Fantastic.
And I've always said to people, if you're not willing to invest in you, why should I invest in you?
Exactly. Well, Tim, I want to tell you, thank you so much for being here today. And you know how much you mean to me. I mean, you really were the impetus that got me off from eating dinner, I want to say, out of my comfort zone. And I really appreciate it, and I thank you so much for being here today. And all I can say is go Bucks.
Go Bucks. They still have a football team?
Yeah, they do. Thank you again. Thank you to my listeners. I really appreciate y'all being here. Next week, please tune in. I have a really special guest. He was a Black Hawk helicopter pilot. Tune in for Jack Perry next week. That's our show today. Remember, you have the power to live intentionally. I'm your host, Jeff Heiser, and I hope you will join me here again next week. Till then, stay safe, be intentional, and spread the word. Success is an intentional lifestyle.